This title really captured my attention. It says, warning, simps will ruin dating for everyone in 5 years, by the channel Wheat Waffles. It's a bold statement.
It's undeniable. Simping is getting worse. OnlyFans revenue has increased almost tenfold to 2.5 billion in just 2 years. This man paid more on OnlyFans than he did on rent last month. This teenager donated $20,000 worth of life savings to Twitch e-girls. These are some shocking numbers, but without being rest assured, it's not just these clowns who have to pay the price. Simping has huge ripple effects on the entire dating
Sure.
market, and therefore affects everyone, including you. Boiled down, when a man simps, it undermines your value because as women get accustomed to being treated like queens, their desires from men transforms into preferences, then to expectations, and finally entitlements. And although these examples I've shown are mainly being benefited by a small minority of women at the top with a following, you'll see even at the lower levels, pretty much every average girl is being engulfed with attention, validation, and thirst from an innumerable count of
Alright. I agree with that statement that they are, but this isn't something that's new. What's new is simps having the ability to simp on a monetary level. So you're intentionally not mentioning the money part, because these women who are making money through simps, they can be very mid or even below average, but it's still a very small percentage of women. But yeah, women across the board get this attention, but that attention is very meaningless, very empty. They know that these guys are very desperate loser simps, so it's not really elevating them to a sense of entitlement, right? Not really.
desperate guys. Once more boiled down, the dating market is getting more and more screwed. Anyway, the focal question of this video is going to be why. Why is simping at an all-time high and continuing to set new all-time highs year after year after year?
Well, you mentioned the years of the pandemic. There was a pandemic in that time, and that coincided with the popularity of sites like OF, Fansly, all these other sites that are maybe not entirely intentionally designed for farming simps, but they kind of are. So that's why. The only thing that's changed is now it's easier for guys to simp super hard. But even before these premium sites and the internet connected the world in the way that it has, simps still existed, right? They were still giving women gifts. Look at the movie The Notebook. When is that set? Literally, Ryan Gosling's character is simping over Rachel McAdams' character for like 10 years, where he doesn't even see her. She's off and like gets married and stuff, and he builds her a house. That's insane. He builds her like a mansion. Simping has been around forever. It's just in a different form now with the internet, and it allows women to actually gain something. As before, they would maybe get a gift here or there, whereas now they just get direct payment.
Well, I'm going to be bringing you 5 reasons answering this question. So without wasting any more time on the intro, let's get straight to the first. Reason 1, male thirst. The sad reality of today's dating game is that a lot of guys think so lowly of themselves that they believe their only chance to get their foot in the door is by simping. Every year that passes, the dating market gets more and more competitive. This means in every...
No. It actually gets less and less competitive. Now, most areas have a larger female population than male, and I would say women's expectations are actually going down, right? Like, we live in a time, we live in this horrible economic nightmare right now. When was this video uploaded? It must have been, 2 years ago. So it was bad then. It's gotten so much worse. So this expectation of finding a rich guy is all but evaporated. Like, right? Like, people can't afford to have a place to live. There are tent cities popping up in like every town and city across North America. There's an epidemic of drugs and homelessness.
Increasing number of guys are being forced out of the market, and the pool of accepted men becomes more and more concentrated to the guys at the top. These exact type of graphics are completely false, completely ridiculous. Like, because you have men who are broke, obese, nothing going for them in the looks department, with top shelf men. Why does that happen? Please explain to me why that happens. Please explain to me why reality in no way reflects this. You're telling me that, like, even mathematically it makes no sense. There'd be no women dating ever. Women, like, when the opposite is true. Dating is easier than ever, so more people are dating. There's more relationships. There's more people. There's more women available to you than ever before. In so many ways, it's easier than ever before because you can rizz chicks up. You can get to know them as well. You can do the formative parts of a relationship entirely online, entirely at your fingertips on your phone. So, just from a pure like numbers standpoint, it is far easier. What's actually happening is that these men and women at the bottom are struggling to date each other. But it's not like this upward thing. I'm sorry, but there aren't bottom tier women dating mid or higher tier men. It's just not actually happening, right? Because what you're describing here is like, let's look at this yellow struggling area. Why would a man at the top go for a woman like anywhere near the bottom if he can have these top tier women? Right? Like, there's competition, of course, but there's always been. This isn't anything new at all. And I'm sorry, but there's no women out there are actually getting any confidence from simps. Yeah, there's more simps who are, directly, consistently simping for them. But I'm telling you, throughout history, there has always been tons of men simping for tons of women. I work with guys who, talk about exactly that occurring decades and decades ago. In like the 70s, in the 80s, when they were young adults. It occurred then, where there's like, say there's a woman, a good-looking woman, and multiple guys are going for her. And it's like, yeah, this chick, she gets hit on by like every guy in town. Now that exists, but now it's kind of easier for the guys to simp because they don't even have to leave the comfort of their own home, and they can do it at their fingertips at any time. But that just makes it more empty. That just makes it more meaningless. Like, are there any women out there that are actually dating any of these simps? I never hear about it. I never hear about that actually happening. I never hear about women actually like considering these weirdos who are simping for them in any kind of positive light as being anything but a nuisance, an annoyance. This leaves a problem, because for the majority of men at the bottom, their desires haven't changed. They have just as much of a will to compete as they always have had. So, in order to fulfill these desires, they've only got two options. either grinds for several years trying to reach the top 10%, which is far from guaranteed, or to simp over women and pay for their time so they notice.
That's insane. That's insane. This is what this is why I hate the red pill community, is that exact statement. Because this is what they peddle. This is what they tell men. Ridiculous crap like this, which makes zero sense. Never do either of those things. Both of those things are equally as detrimental and terrible. Right? And think of only in the context of grinding for several years to be in the top 10%. That both parts of that statement are ridiculous. You're not going from the bottom to the top 10%. That will never happen. That is an unrealistic and unobtainable goal. But you could go to the middle. You want to be in the middle. Join the middle where everyone else is. Yes, you should do things to improve yourself. Absolutely. But the top 10, you're insane. And that's what these people push. It's like, oh, you need to be a multimillionaire. You need to have this and that. No, you don't. You just need to be mid. And think about, now I know this channel exactly has shown images of women's attraction to men based off of Tinder profile pictures, and men's attraction to women, which obviously men's attraction towards women is higher, right? Like, men are just more physically attracted to women than women are physically attracted to men. But what that actually is demonstrating is that your looks don't matter, men. You all exist in the middle anyway. The top 1%, they're unobtainable to women. Women don't even actually realistically consider dating those men, because they know those men can get top tier women. That those women, like the majority of women, are going to have no opportunity to ever compete with. And they view it in a totally different way than men view that exact dynamic, right? Because me as a guy, I'm mid as heck, right? I would say my personality, who I am, brings me to the upper mid tier, but I don't see it as these guys at the very tippy top as being my competition at all. They aren't, because most women aren't even going to realistically consider the possibility of dating them. So they're almost not even on the market. They don't even really affect things. They're meaningless, right? They're only meaningful as if you're going for literally the top 1% of women, which I'm not going for anyway, right? That top percentage of women is equally disqualifying to the enormous, overwhelming, gigantic majority of people. So it's basically a complete non-factor in dating, right? And this idea of grind for years is equally as demented. Yes, you should improve yourself, but for years, on some level, you should always be improving yourself, finding ways to be happier and being a better person. But grinding, no. This should become a passive thing. There is a time when you should be grinding to become a better person and find out who you are and find that happiness and joy in your life and become a better person and improve the things you need to improve and reflect. But that should be happen in your early 20s, and you should maybe spend 6 months to a year. What you should do is do anywhere from 3 to 6 months of heavy reflecting, where you're talking to people who've known you for a long time. You're dedicating time to focus on yourself, to really think over who you are, what you've experienced, what formed you to who you are. Do you agree that it's a good thing that this whatever formed you into who you are? Is each particular formative thing, was it a good result on you or a bad result? Would you change things if you could? Are you willing to accept certain things about yourself? Because you can't make yourself perfect. No one's perfect. No one's expecting you to be perfect. Women aren't expecting you to be perfect. There's going to be a lot about yourself you can change and a lot you can't, right? So you got to balance that and make yourself into a person that you can accept the issues that you have that are unchangeable, like if certain mental health issues and things about you that are just unchangeable, that it's outside of your control, right? Spend like 3 to 6 months heavy reflecting, and then spend another 3 to 6 months going over that, like just allowing yourself to improve, right? Actually doing the improving, actually changing things about your life, getting focus, saying, hey, I want to do this. I have this goal. I've always wanted to do this. I want to be this. I want to get into this career. I wanted to accomplish these things, and start actually doing it. Start actually saying, hey, I want to be in this career. Start looking up college programs that will get you that career. Start talking to people in that career. Start talking to people who have accomplished what you want to accomplish. Start gaining knowledge. Start taking steps forward to getting to where you want to be, right? And as you're doing that previous like 3 to 6 months where you did all that reflecting, that's still kind of going to be passively going on. That's still going to be bouncing around in the back of your mind. You're still going to have you're going to be thinking about it, but in a more passive way than the active way, than when you were actively reflecting. And this is just how you progress as a person. And like I'm saying, dedicate a year, preferably like when you're like 21, 22, 23. In those times, there should be major self-improvement and growth and reflection. But this like grinding for years to improve yourself, this is a demented idea that is pushed by grifters, pushed by people selling a course. Oh, you need to grind for years and I'll teach you how to do it. Just pay me a fee, buy my book, buy my course.
It's one of these two things, or you give up. And for a lot of guys...
No. There is tons of other options. There is a long list of options, right? Neither of these two are good. The third option of spend like a year and actually improve yourself that I described, that's an option. And there's a fourth option of don't improve yourself, of just learn how to compete. If you want to only focus on dating, if you don't want to take a holistic approach and actually improve your life and become a more healthy, positive person, you can just focus on getting better at dating and pursuing women. Like, that's a core part of what I meant by spending a year and getting and improving yourself. Part of that is improving on your approaching women, you talking to women. Once you do that, you're going to actually start getting dates and relationships, and graphics like this, you're going to laugh at how hilariously incorrect they are.
Guys, the simping option looks the most desirable because they see it as the easiest ticket back in the game. But of course, the problem is, simping never works out in the long run.
Now, simping's very complicated. There is tons of different forms to do it. Like, I made a video of this, of alpha orbiters and beta orbiters. Being a beta orbiter is simping. Being an alpha orbiter is not, right? Like, say you look at the comments of some chick's post. There's guys in there who are alphas, who maybe in the past have nailed that woman, or in the future they will. Or they're going to exist as like just this alpha orbiter, and maybe they bang them, maybe they don't. Who cares? They don't care. But then there's tons of people who are like these omega simps, where they're like super desperately clung on to this woman. They're obsessed with her. They're like drooling over her. Just a desperate attempt. They're just throwing attention at this woman and hoping that any of it returns on any level, right? That's one form of simping. Is the beta orbiter simping. Then there's there's like a ring outside of that beta orbit. Like, the alpha orbit's real close. Then there's the beta orbit. But then outside of that is the like, I don't know. I don't even know what you'd call it. The tier 3 sub. The OF follower thing, where you're paying woman. You're simping to a level where you're paying them money. Now that gets very complicated, because that's kind of a totally different thing, right? Because then you're that means you have a genuine belief that you are in this pseudo parasocial relationship with this woman. Because that's ultimately what's happening with these sites like OF is that guys aren't paying for nudes of the woman. Like sometimes they are, right? Maybe it's a woman you went to high school with or something, or whatever, and you just want to see her naked. But those guys, what they're doing is they pay that subscription fee once and then they deactivate it. They pay for 1 month and they're out. So they're paying their $5, their $8, their $12 one time and they're out. They're kind of inconsequential to the metrics, the function of something like OF. The people who are subscribed for a long time and spending money on top of that, spending hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on this woman that they're following, what they're purchasing is something totally different than just nude images, because there's an infinite amount of nude images and videos on the internet, a literal infinite amount. You could never consume it all, right? And for free on the internet. So that's clearly not what it is. So what are they actually purchasing? What they're purchasing is attention, is female attention, and a pseudo relationship, right? They have given up. The thing is, they literally have given up. It's not like there's this option of hardcore simping and the option of giving up. No, they have given up to some extent. Not 100%, because the fact that they still want that like female companionship, even though on some level they know it's fake. They know they're never going to meet this woman. They know that there's a likelihood that who they're talking to is actually just some guy who's helping this woman run her profile. But what they're purchasing, it's kind of like, it's almost like an AI relationship. It's like a simulated relationship, a fake relationship is what they're buying, but at least it's some kind of attention. They're getting something out of it. And I actually believe on some level, if a person does it correctly, if a woman does this correctly, and explains to the guy on some level, like, hey, we're never going to meet. This is like, we're not in a relationship. It can actually be a positive experience. Because you got to think about it. These guys are like the lowest of the low. They not only are they not dating, but they have zero prospects of dating. It's likely that they aren't going to date somebody in the next 5 years. These guys are extremely desperate to where they are willing to purchase a entirely fake online relationship, knowing that there are tons of other guys literally purchasing that exact same fake relationship with the exact same woman at the same time. That's how like desperate these guys are, right? Like these aren't just greasy guys consuming nude content. It's way more complex than that. And I think it can be positive. I think that if the woman chooses to make it a positive experience, then these guys can actually get a lot of meaningful stuff out of it, right? If they make it clear, because a lot of these guys are going to say weird, gross stuff to these women, and these women can actually respond very positively. Typically what happens is the women just won't even respond to that type of thing. But like a woman can make it very clear, like, hey, I don't feel comfortable ever meeting somebody who I don't know. Like, I'm never going to meet with you. It's not going to happen. Or they can even say it's incredibly unlikely. I don't feel comfortable meeting people. Like, I don't know. I don't think it will happen ever. So just like keep that in mind, dude. But they can also point out things. They can bring these guys closer to reality. Well, in the time that these guys are in this fake relationship that they're paying for, they can actually teach these men the error of their ways. It sounds crazy, but I swear, it can be a positive thing. Most of the time it's not, though. Most of the time, most of these women on there, they're just trying to milk every dime that a guy has. They're saying things. They're like telling some sob story, trying to manipulate him into just spending every dollar, break his bank, zero his bank account to them. They approach it in this really like short-sighted, greedy way.
Because even if a below-average guy manages to attract a top woman into a relationship this way, The woman isn't actually attracted to him, rather only for what he can provide. There will always be a power imbalance, as the man has essentially said to the girl from minute one, "You and your time is worth more than me, so I'm happy to make up for that with my financial contribution." Relationships formed this way have no foundations and therefore are a disaster waiting to happen. Now moving on to reason 2. The deceptive and misleading agenda of the mainstream media. The whole world wants men to be simps. In preparation for this video, I thought I'd type into Google what is a simp, and I don't even know why I bothered. The results were hilarious.
I'm actually very curious. In my videos, I call people simps who are doing this beta orbiter simping, not the like high level of. Now I do probably also have mentioned someone who is likely one of these high level, like tier 3 sub type of turbo simps. But I get comments where people are like, "Oh, well, simp doesn't even have any meaning. How is this person a simp?" It's like they argue about not only the definition of simp, but also that like somehow guys who are desperately clingy and obsessive towards women who exist in this beta orbit, if not further away than this beta orbit, are simps, are simping. It's weird.
This article from CNN says, "Simp, the new slang teenagers use to insult boys who are too nice to girls." This article was similar. Simp behaviour is just a way of shaming men that treat women well. Lastly, there was this one. Apparently, doing anything nice for women makes you a simp. So, in each of these articles, which are the face of the mainstream, we see them equating the term simp to a man who is nice, noble, kind, and generous towards women. This is a huge part of the problem. These equations are inaccurate, first of all.
Yes, I'll go over it real quick. Guys, you aren't like the nice guy TM. You're not nice. It's not nice to simp over women. It's not nice to place them above you, to act like their time's more important to you. No, because first of all, you're devaluing yourself, so you're making it so these women will never be attracted to you, right? Like you so desperately want a relationship with whatever woman, basically any woman, but you're guaranteeing that even if you got that relationship, she will never be able to sustain any kind of attraction for you if it forms to begin with, because she's not going to want a simp long term. She's not going to want a simp. She's not going to want a doormat. She's not going to want somebody who just is this total like null and void mannequin type Play-Doh will just do whatever garbage person. She just won't. Like no. And what how you actually be nice to a woman is treat her like an equal, which means if she's acting ridiculous, you tell her she's acting ridiculous. If she's treating you awful, you tell her she's treating you awful and you don't put up with it. You break up with her. You walk away. You match her energy. So many guys, it's like they'll just sit there and be treated like dirt. And they act like that's normal and okay, and it isn't. Actually, like sticking up for yourself and not putting up with garbage, being treated like trash, it's actually good on multiple levels, and the women will respect you more, and not only respect you but be more attracted to you, right? Like so many of these simps, they have this idea that like guys who are confident and guys who stand up for themselves are some kind of like weird 80s movie jock who treat women like dirt. No, that's not a real thing that exists. The guys who actually treat women like equals stand up for themselves and stand up to women, to the women that they're in relationships with, and say, hey, you did this thing wrong and that's not okay.
Which I'll elaborate more on in a second. But more importantly, since the first exposure people get about any issue or topic is almost always going to come from the mainstream, the result will be widespread bias being acknowledged by the most naive and impressionable people. Let's say an uneducated young man gets called a simp at school and ends up reading some of these articles. You could bet solid money he'd walk away from them actually aspiring to be a simp. He'd believe he should be proud to call himself one, and
That's true. That's true. There are guys who basically do this, who defend simping as though they are like the champions of women. They care so much about women. Oh, I'm a simp. Sorry that I actually care about how women think and feel. No, you don't. The thing is, you actually don't. By acting like you do, you're actually not. Right? You're actually fundamentally not understanding what women think and feel. You're ignoring what women actually want. They don't want somebody who's just this pushover, do whatever they say, someone who exists in this weird simp doormat's position. No, they want you to like not agree with them on everything. There's tons of times where women actively just cause arguments. They just want to argue. Do you think you're giving them what they want by just not arguing with them? No. No, they're looking for an argument. Argue with them. If they're treating you like dirt, if they're being ridiculous, tell them. Tell them. Argue with them. Be like, no, that ain't right. That ain't right at all. I'm not going to pretend like it is right. I'm not going to just be abused by you. I will not.
Reinforce in his mind it's his duty to mindlessly hand out for women. But let me make myself clear. There is absolutely nothing admirable about being a simp as a man. Simping can be done anytime for any woman and therefore has no value. These articles show how backwards the mainstream really is. Going further, even from a young age, boys are taught to know difference. I remember when I was a kid watching scenes from Disney's The Fox and the Hound, where the male fox gives the female fox a flower in order to attract her. And though giving a flower is nowhere nearly as bad as giving away your money as a simp would, it still plants these seeds in the minds of young children that the key to winning the hearts of girls is by being selfless and generous. Now, some people might say, yeah, the mainstream does encourage simp behaviour.
It does. It does, and it's, like I said, it's not nice. You're not being nice by just giving somebody everything they want. Because a lot of times what people want isn't actually what they truly want. Right?
But now there's a growing presence of people like this guy who are saying the opposite, which therefore will neutralise the bias in the mainstream. This is a dumb argument, because although it might be true for the moment, I promise you it'll be short-lived. This is because for the major media outlets, who are and always will be the guys in control, they'll eventually grow tiresome of hearing tripe from the other side. So, all they'll do is ban these people for breaking user terms. And speaking of which, just last week the man on your screen is now banned from both Facebook and Instagram. And I wouldn't be surprised if the other major platforms take similar action against him. Anyway, bottom line, in future, as the mainstream media becomes more strict with what you can and can't say, it'll only take less time for those who have controversial stances to have the rug pulled from underneath them. Now moving on to reason number 3, evolution. When you look at the history of the dating market, in tribal times the provision of resources from men was king. If you were the man that could provide the most for a woman and her kids, and protect them as well, you'd be the one to pass on your genes. Therefore, male brains evolved to be driven to deliver as much as they can for women. In other words, men want to simp. It's in their DNA. However,
I guess that's kind of true, yeah.
What nobody told men is that nowadays, things are far, far different. With the explosion of social media and online dating, I think it's quite evident looks is now king. Unfortunately though, the male brain hasn't kept up with these rapid changes in dating.
Well, it's complicated, right? Since they show this kind of like dorky guy, there's a certain aspect of it, but it's very complicated, right? Because look at this dorky guy. This guy looks like he's probably got some low-level job, some low-level like corporate business office job. He looks like somebody who wouldn't get a promotion, who wouldn't be like a boss of anybody. He looks like somebody who doesn't take charge. So, and he's probably not using this guy as an example of looks, but it's more dynamic than just like what your face looks like. I would say this is definitely an aspect of modern society, right? Because although women aren't looking for guys who are just like big, bulky, badass, like caveman, strong, they are looking for somebody who's like smart, somebody who's dynamic, somebody who's got a lot going on, somebody who maybe has established themselves, and somebody who's tall. Like that is an aspect, right? Because tall guys, women want to have kids with tall guys because then their kids will be tall guys, right? Like, would you want your son to be tall or short? You're going to want him to be tall because tall people, there kind of is like tall privilege. It does exist, right? Like tall people, they do studies on this, and tall people are more likely to get certain things more easily. Just like beautiful women have certain advantages, tall men have certain advantages. That's why it's such a thing. That's why a lot of dating apps, like I just made a Facebook dating app, or not dating app, but like the dating function of Facebook. Literally the first thing it asks you is your name and then your height. First thing. I laughed. But it means it is pretty meaningful for women because of they want a guy who either has status or can obtain it. And there's different ways to obtain status in society, right? It's by accomplishing stuff, and by that, and how do you accomplish stuff, right? Usually involves collaboration with other people and stuff like getting promotions at your work. If you're tall, people are going to more trend towards you to have like leadership qualities if you're a tall person. It's just what it is, right? And yeah, like they call it the selfish gene theory, where women are looking for tall guys because they want their children to be tall and to thus have like an easier life. And yeah, that's like biologically hardwired into women. So I feel like this isn't really something that's like created by society. Like society has changed, but in so many ways it also hasn't, right? Because just like a big caveman, right? Like I'm 6'2". If I was living in a cave in caveman times, I'm also smart, and I'm also somebody, like I enjoy camping in a tent. I enjoy roughing it. If you make a bunch of me and 20 other guys cavemen, all of a sudden I'm gonna do pretty well because I'm smart and I'm big. There's certain just advantages that I have in that context, right? And with what we're talking about here. But that's not the end all be all. It's not. I hate this idea that like somebody like me, who's 6 feet tall and makes six figures, that it's just hilariously easy. Now, the reason I find dating easy, like I do find dating to be easy, but that entirely has to do with like my personality, right? Like that's because I know how to talk to women, and I actually talk to them. I actually pursue women. These guys who are miserable failures, who are watching all these YouTube videos, who are complaining about the dating world, who are getting no dates, they're not even talking to women. They're not even pursuing them. If they are, it's like the most minimal, ridiculous way imaginable. And they're coming with this energy of just negativity and excuses. They're expecting failure, and what they're finding is failure. They're refusing to become a confident person who gets stuff done. There's tons of short guys out there who are getting tons of women. Because guess what? Those guys get stuff done. They're guys who realize maybe they have some shortcomings, and maybe they need to demonstrate the things that women are assuming the tall guy is naturally going to have, like leadership qualities. And the ability to establish himself and get things done, achieve goals, right? Like you can do that. You have the ability to do that, right? Like, explain this to me. Why I've had success on dating apps. Now nowadays, almost all of them require you to put what height you are. But I've had success before that was a requirement on dating apps. And I've had success on social media, talking to girls who have no idea how tall I am, who have no concept of how tall I am, who have no idea how tall I am. And I've gotten dates. I've gotten dirty pictures sent to me. I've rizzed up women and had it where they were eating out of the palm of my hand before we ever met, before they knew how tall I was, right? And I have other shortcomings. I mean, look at my ugly mug. I'm not some supermodel. I never have women throwing themselves at me. I have to put in work. I have to rizz up women to get them. Like this idea that there's just no effort put in, that like men who have any kind of success or any kind of like were born with any kind of like natural advantage, that they just don't even have to try, that there's no competition. The thing is, I'm going to make it real clear to men out there. There is competition. You're my competition. I am competing with you, and most of you out there who are watching this YouTube video, whether it's mine or the video I'm reacting to, I am out competing you by miles. You are so small and insignificant in this competition. You're not even on my radar. You are nothing. You are a speck of dust miles behind me. And I'm saying this because I want you to not be that. I want you to grow and elevate yourself and move forward. I just can't stand these concepts of like, oh, that men out there should not even try because they don't have the easiest possible path where women are just throwing themselves at you. Literally, like, no men out there have women just throwing themselves at them. The entire notion is completely crazy and false. And it's something that men need to get over. Start taking some accountability. Start being a guy that women are attracted to. Because there's 100 ways to do it. Women have a huge range of things they're attracted to. Right? Like, if anything, I'm going to break this into two parts. I got a knock on my door, but we'll continue.